nucleoside protein gas. Well, we decided to take this a step further, and in 1994, what we did is very complex serial reconstructions of microtubules. You've got to use electron microscopy to see individual microtubules. And when you do electron microscopy, you do thin sections. You do thin sections, you break things up. So you've got to reconstruct your thin section. Very, very tedious work. What we found, we did that, sure enough, in the region of that branch, the microtubule was really much shorter. There wasn't discontinuity created in those long microtubules that dominated the parallax. So that was very satisfying. We had fulfilled our prediction. Yes.
In this case of microtubules and bend so much, if you have a branch point, especially say out of the growth is close to the growth compatible, can the microtubules fully bend and curve?
Microtubules can do a lot of that. We've seen the tracking axons. They can become highly contorted. And yeah, the reason of the growth when they have sufficient space, they can curve around. And what we did see with branch formation, for example, every time we make a branch, the bending occurs from the proximal side into the newly formed branch, never from the growth side. So yeah, growth will have to go down because it's an issue that's important.
So do you need to cut?
You need to cut to get more microtubules. To get more microtubules. Because if you do a cross-sectional analysis, and you count the number of microtubules here out of the branch, and the number of microtubules in the branch, that number is way higher than the number of proximal in the branch. Somewhere, the new microtubules have to come from.
And what about modification, tubular modification?
Tubular modifications at the branch site give you just the next slide. Let me feel the more. That's kind of yeah, microtubules get in the branch process. Yeah. I think that's the molar protein. They're driving the microtubules in the appropriate orientation. Well, I'm sure we occasionally solve the wrong polarity because, as I mentioned, it used to be in the pumping method. If we saw one with the wrong polarity, we assumed that it was a flawed methodology. But then once we said that we would be recovered that, we said, no. There's really a small number of microtubules that do get in the cell. So particularly when you have that product event, you get a cluster of microtubules, and many of those short ones may have a orientation. So I think we went back and we looked at those experiments. What we may find is that maybe there's a transient period of time when it's a little more mixed than it should be, and then there's a mechanism for removing or clearing the point.
So during this cutting, any small fragment can act as a nucleating center?
That would be nice, yeah, during the cutting. I think what happens is you cut that microtubule. The short microtubules arising from the dynamic domain probably vanish. The short microtubules arising from the stable domain, they live. And each one of those short fragments can act as a nucleating center, a nucleating fragment for new microtubules. And that's yet another purpose for those domains.
Is there a difference in microtubule dynamics branching and dendrite?
We've not looked at that. We haven't looked at it. There are a couple of papers from Drosophila on dendrite branching, and I think they use certain severing proteins. And we'll talk more about severing proteins in just a minute. We have an invertebrate around here that dendrite branch. in this regard.
I think is that there are some certain language modifications of tubular or the microtubular concentrator which could lead to a computational chain and so on. Like in the case of the diagram that we showed here. So near the branch, there are a series of modifications concentrated near the branch, which will lead to a diagram of the same.
It's a good idea. Certainly in the growth. In the growth point, you've got all processes of microtubules. You've got very high unmodified domains that all they have domains. So you have very high pyroxenated and unacetylated microtubules. And that's why microtubules growth home. But that's one reason why microtubules growth home have affinity for certain molecules or product molecules. At branch points, at regions where branches form form, I don't know of any evidence that any predictions can be made on the basis of modification. But I'll show you that slide next time. I'll think about that. It's well said again for a long time. So,
In acetyl, maybe separate analysis, does acetylation lead to stabilization or does it just correlate with
there's a lot.
acetylation?
Well,
Correlates
acetylation does not stabilize microtubules. Decarboxylation does not stabilize microtubules. They are indicators of stabilization because the longer the microtubule lives, the more of these subunits will become modified. However, let me make that a little more complicated. There are stabilizing proteins that prefer acetylated microtubules. So, if you're talking about the context of a living cell, then acetylation, in a sense, can lead to stabilization. In the test tube, no. In the test tube, you can have high data microtubules that are acetylated and still be living. Okay. So, where all this leads is the fun part. And the fun part is this. Now, there are a couple different types of science. One is descriptive, and the other is mechanistic. And they're both important, and they're both critical to do. In general, mechanism is considered the higher orders. In some ways, it's kind of a shame to talk about that in school, because there's some really important descriptive work that's still left on the table. And some of the questions you ask, well, how many different systems have people looked at microtubular polarity orientation? Do we know certain very fundamental things? And in fact, there are many questions that remain on the table simply because people have had to move on from descriptive work into mechanistic work. And a lot of different things actually make it to textbooks, as Dr. Hollenbeck indicated in his talk at school, that really a lot of work. Even so, mechanisms don't work. And I just want to indicate a few things about mechanism. So in one of my talks on Wednesday, I talk about these molecular proteins. And I'm going to talk about how these molecular proteins drive the transport of short molecules down the axon. But these molecular proteins, I don't want to offend anybody, but these molecular proteins are pretty smart. I don't think they're smart enough to say, okay, you short guy, I can move you. You long guy, no, I'm not going to I think these motor proteins are interacting with microtubules. Short, whether they're long, and if they're short, they move. If they're long, what do those horses do if they're wrong? I think if they're wrong, those horses can still push on the microtubules. And those forces are really relevant to whether the axon can grow or retract. And there are also actin-based forces, there's actin-myosin in the cell cortex. And the actin-myosin always wants to contract the axon. Actin-myosin wants to cause the axon to contract. I think what's going on with these microtubule-based forces, at least the dynamo-based forces, they want the axon to grow. And they're always in this kind of competition. And if these actin-myosin-based forces win, the axon contracts. If the dynamo-based forces win, the axon grows. And these same sort of themes, I think, apply to the actin-myosin always pushing back on the microtubules, pushing back. The dynamo forces are enabling the microtubules to kind of swim upstream so they can overcome these actin-myosin-based forces and cause them to return. So this is all about mechanisms. And I think that this really applies to Pramod's beautiful presentation last night, where he talked about the potential for microtubules to be sliding around. So if you think about the axon attraction that he discussed, or the beating that he discussed, I like the idea of these microtubules sliding out. I like it for these reasons, and also I like it because it's a conservation of pain. Remember we talked about in school, one of the most fundamental microtubules, the most fundamental, is watching my tile spindle, where microtubules slide one to one another. So that's a conservation of that theme. Now here's the slide I want to get to answer a couple of questions. I'm going to talk about this extensively on Wednesday, but I think when a branch forms mechanistically, there are a couple of different ways microtubules can chop. One way is through a microtubule protein spasm that we think accumulates at the branch site. Not exactly sure how it goes to go there, but apparently it does. Katana, by contrast, does not accumulate at the branch site. How does it know? How does it know specifically the several microtubules at that branch? It turns out that katana is very sensitive to tau. If there's a lot of tau in the microtubules, katana will separate. So if you want the separate to be localized to that site, what do? You get tau off the microtubules. And that's how we think katana-based mode works. A signal that induces branch phosphorylates tau. Tau comes off the microtubules, and now katana can actually move inside. So I think there's at least two different modes of branch. Katana-based mode, which relies on tau, and spasm-based mode, which is independent of tau. And we'll talk more about that next. Here's the microtubule. And we'll talk about this more on Wednesday as well, but this is to show that in actual fact, all of the microtubules line up here in the center. So they don't all have their access attached. The small category of microtubules actually have unattached. And that's some very interesting ideas about how the overlap of microtubules in different orientations contribute to neural migration. So, on Wednesday, I give two different talks. One is about motor proteins, how they organize microtubules and axons and dendrites. So everything that we need not to these two introductory talks how do materials get act from become plasma, how materials get act become mixed. And we'll also talk a bit about local maturity, we'll talk a bit about migratory neurons, all the perspective of these local proteins. Then earlier in the day, I'll talk about the bacterial side of proteins. Katana, spastic, and a few others, how they're regulated, the work they do in the neuron. Katana in particular, high favors acetylated proteins. So that's what happened. So at this point, in terms of the story behind the story, I've told you a few things moving forward, stories about as a postdoc and a graduate student. And what I'm going to do now is open things up a little bit of discussion. If you have any questions, really for any of the investigators, ask how we chose to study what we do, where we were inspired. I was having a talk with Shivojit, and talking about the external transport field. And the external transport field is an older field. And there are older fields in biomedical research. There are younger fields. And all the time, graduate students, postdocs, are reluctant to get into an older field. Because they think in an older field, all the most important questions are already answered. And I hope that this workshop and the school have done is to accentuate the fact that there are so many questions left on the table. There's so many questions that you have asked that we have no answers. We can start with. So if you prefer, you can get into a classroom field. A field such as maybe stem cell research, something that's more on the radar. That may be a good idea. It may be a good idea. But I also don't want you to be dissuaded from entering a narrow, older field, such as cell transport. Because we realize that there are a lot of unanswered questions that we just really scratch the surface. So what questions or what points do you have about this?
This is one moment. I know the states has been moved for centuries. I know the states has been moved for centuries. Just recently,
Yeah, so it's not the 1% century, but just be something in mind. So any other thoughts people on that? Someone will get philosophical questions. Okay, thanks very much for your attention.
So, do you know from university system that the mathematical arrangement near the cell body of the exam initial technical system and rest of the finally university